Hey there, my name is Colin, also known as Skips, and welcome to the Modder's Blueprint. This is a series where I'll teach you everything you need to know to mod Terraria and make super cool content like this. I'm a CS student, and I've been modding Terraria for about 5 years, and I'm even an active developer on projects such as Starlight River. Now, we're going to be mastering the basics in this series. Visual effects will be built with Terraria's internal assets and systems. Alright, let's hop right into it. Alright, so for episode 1, we're going to be going over, the most basic stuff possible. We're going to be going over building your first mod, creating it, getting a basic item in, as well as, a lot of basic file organization and structure, how everything should work when just starting out and getting our systems in place. But on the docket for today is getting the mod built, getting the mod able to be used with hot reload and stuff, and then we're going to work on a sword that creates a healing item on hit. It's pretty basic, but it's going to teach you guys a lot of the basics of both C# and guiding yourself through the Terraria's framework, for modding specifically. Now, in order to mod it all, you're going to have to do a few prerequisites, and you're gonna want to be sure to be on tModLoader. The most recent version, I am on 1.4.4.9. You're going to want to make sure you have the .NET framework, version 0.8 or version 8. You're going to want to make sure you have Visual Studio Community installed. I'm going to have a guide listed down below that has everything you need to know to get started to be able to build mods. But once you're there, you're going to go to Workshop, develop mods, a lot of stuff here. And then I'm just going to be calling this tutorial mods. Oh wait, no. This is the display name. This can be anything. I'm just going to call it tutorial mod. Oops. Now, basic sword is a default class that will be in your files if you have it. We're not going to have basic sword. We're going to start with a blank project. So we're going to create. That's going to open this. And at this point, we can build it. And then just close out a tModLoader for now. I've got some stuff open. Open the CS proj. Make sure it's the CS proj and not the .cs. That's going to cause some things with Visual Studios. Or Visual Studio, I mean. After opening your .cs proj, you're going to have this basic structure. You're going to have these 3 text files. There's a lot of things you can do in here. This is the description of your mod, and then this is the description on the workshop. This is the description in the mod browser in tModLoader itself. The workshop one is more important, but we'll get into that way later. This is your mod's icon. It's a PNG. It defaults to these. You don't have to worry about these for now. And then you have this. Yeah, I mean, you can read this guide. It'll be linked down below in the description, but this is just a mod class. It doesn't really do anything right now. It can do things. It can load files, etc. It load systems, load shaders, stuff like that, but we're not going to get into that. We're just going to do some basic file structure for now. Right click on tutorial mod up here below the solution, and then I'm just going to add a new folder. This is going to be called content. Now we are also going to add a folder called assets. And we're going to add a folder called core. These 3 are pretty self-explanatory. Assets is any assets you want to be in the mod. If you want to go the route of having your assets in a separate folder, you can. I'm not going to do that because it's a little bit more advanced. We're just going to do the basic auto-loaded way. So that's for any extra assets like bloom, stuff like that. We're also going to have a dust folder for whenever we want to make custom dusts, which should actually be in content. So in content, we're going to have dusts, we're going to have items, we're going to have NPCs, etc., etc. In items, I like to do accessories, weapons, etc. Now, one thing to note is your file organization doesn't really matter. It's just it's a way to keep your project organized. This is the way I like to do it. It's for any systems, it's for any content I add. It makes navigating the project a lot easier. Now, getting into actually making the content is actually pretty easy. So you're first gonna want to start off with a sprite and then a .cs class. Okay, so for the sake of this video, I made a quick sprite. It's called the Forestborn Sword. So we're going to drag that into weapons, and then we are also going to make sure to add a new item, Forestborn Sword.cs. You're going to want to make sure these have to match exactly. It's case sensitive and everything. And now let's do let's just do melee as the organization, so we can have weapons for each class. Yeah, so this is in, there's a namespace, by the way, make sure this is all accurate. So, you know, we're in tutorial mode, content, items, weapons, melee. So this is us. This is where we are at. Now to make it a item, I recommend making all your classes public. To make it an item, we're going to inherit the mod item class. Now, inheritance, it's kind of scary at first when you're first learning, but it's pretty simple. Basically, this class is going to inherit everything from the mod item abstract class. This basic item guide, I'll also have linked in the description if you want to use that. This has everything you need to make any item you want. It has classes created specifically for mod items, and it also auto-loads the item, assuming that it has a sprite. If not, it will cause an error. So just make sure you have a sprite for any item you make. Alright, so after we've added the mod item class, we're just going to build the mod. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to auto-create localization for the mod after we build it, or at least it should. And this is going to be the intended way to add item names, tooltips, and anything in English by default that gets generated. I'm gonna have to cancel some of this. Also, I recommend always having Dragon Lens or a similar cheat mod in order to test your mod, because you can create NPCs, you can give yourself any item in the game, God mode, etc. Also, a mod testing world is optimal. So, we are going to, as you can see, it's in the game. We can't do anything with it, but it is in the game. Now, what should have happened once we built the mod is we have this localization file that we can edit. As you can see. So we can change this to just sword. I don't know if it will rebuild. Yeah, it'll rebuild automatically. So as you can see, it says sword now. So we're going to change that to Forestborn Sword, and we are going to change the tooltip to creates healing mushrooms on critical hits, because that's the that's what we're going for. So now we have this, and we can close out of the mod, because assuming you have edit and continue done, which you have to have, it is like completely necessary. There are limits to when you can rebuild. If you add new methods, properties, stuff like that, you have to rebuild the mod. So now that we have it loaded and we have localization for it, let's get started on making it function. Alright, any item is going to start with override set defaults. This is called when the item is created in the world. It does not change once the item is created. It can only be called when it is created, and maybe another time, but for most parts I think it's called when it's created, and it might call on world load. I would have to look at the documentation to understand that. So once we have set defaults, we can do item dot I do size equals new vector 2. Alright, we're gonna have to add this using Microsoft.xna.framework. We're gonna go over global usings in an episode, but basically this creates a vector2 object and sets item.size, which is a vector2 set object. Now we're gonna set it to 32, and make sure you call new to create a new vector 2 object, because that's like, let's see, that's about the size of our canvas, which this is the size of the hitbox of the item in the world. Now we're going to do item dot damage type equals damage class dot melee. This is going to set the damage to melee. We're going to do item dot damage equals 10. Item dot crit is default to 4. I'll be honest, I usually just copy these values and edit them because it's a lot of the same stuff, but we're gonna use, I believe it's use style of 1. Yeah. So item use style id dot swing is gonna make it swing. Other than that, I don't think we need anything else to make it function. Really, all we're going to do is add override add recipes to keep it for edit and continue. And we're going to add override on hit NPC as well. So now we can build the mod. And this is a lot of the process, but for me, the best way I create content efficiently is getting all of your methods done and getting your basic behavior done. After that, everything else comes very quickly, like adding visual effects. Once you have a solid foundation to build upon, everything else becomes pretty easy. So this should make a functioning sword. I cannot guarantee it because I haven't done the basics in a while. Yeah, okay, so we're missing a few things to make it look normal, and I forgot about that. But we can spawn an enemy, and it works, and the hitbox works and stuff. So yeah, what we're missing is item.use animation and item.use time. These usually want to be the same, so otherwise you're gonna have burst behavior, which can be good for guns. So now we've rebuilt that, and as you can see, it's not changing because we haven't called set defaults again. So we're gonna have to get a new one, and now it's a sword that swings at a decent enough rate. Now we're going to add item.use sound equals sound id dot item 1, I believe is the basic swing sound. Add item dot knockback equals 2. This is a float. Floats are basically decimals in terms of C#, so they can have decimal places. Now, after creating the sword again, it's going to have a sound, and it's going to have knockback on enemies. Very, very basic. Our sword's a little small, in my opinion, but we can do item.scale and set it to like 1.25f, which is 25% more, and that might make it bigger. As you can see, it's a little bit bigger now, which I think is nice. So, we're gonna add a recipe. Alright, in add recipes, we are going to call create recipe. The amount parameter dictates the amount that you're going to get. For a weapon, it's going to default. It defaults to 1, and you're going to usually get 1 weapon. That's what this is for. If you want more than that, you can do that. Now, from create recipe, I'm going to create a new line, but it's all the same method. We're going to call add ingredient. This is, we can call this as many times as we want, and this creates an ingredient in our crafting recipe. So we're going to do item ID, call item ID dot wooden sword, because I want this to be a wooden sword upgrade. Add ingredient, oh my lord, item ID dot mushroom, so it has to deal with mushrooms, say 5 dot add ingredient, item ID dot daybloom 1, just to do it. Now this doesn't actually create a recipe. We have to add tile. Now we're going to do tile ID dot work workbenches. This is going to be for any workbench, wooden, pearl wood, etc. And then we're going to call register at the end of this. Now, add recipes, I believe, is only called on mod load. So if we do this, okay, so I've installed a recipe browser, and then I'm going to just give myself a wooden sword, place that into recipe browser, and as you can see, now we have the forestborn sword. It creates mushrooms with healing hit, and we have wooden sword, mushroom, daybloom, and it is required at a workbench of any of these kinds. So that is basic recipe creation, and it applies to any item in the game. Now the last thing we need to do to make this item functional is maybe some basic effects, and like drawing effects, hitting effects, and then make it create a mushroom on critical hit, which sounds a little complicated, but it's actually really easy. So let's just create the mushroom healing object, or we can also use a placeholder actually for just like right now. We can make it happen easily. So it's going to happen on crit. So we're going to call, or we're going to create an if statement, which is pretty self-explanatory if you don't know C# very well. But we're going to ask if hit.crit. So this is everything in these brackets is going to run if this conditional is true. This is if the hit is a crit, very self-explanatory. We're going to call item.newItem. And you can look at anything and create, or not, you can look at anything and see what the inputs are for the method, or the function. So we're going to do player.getSource on hit. Target. This is a entity source. They're self-explanatory for the most part. They're not super useful, but it's good to have accurate ones. Basically, this tells the item.newItem that the source of the item being created is from the player hitting the target object. Very simple. We're going to get target.getRect, which is not like getting wrecked, like getting 360 no scope. This is a getting the rectangle object of the target, which is its hitbox. We're going to call itemid.heart. This is a vanilla item that is the healing hearts that you get from killing enemies. Now everything else we don't really need to worry about. This should just call when we critically hit an enemy. So let's test that. As you can see, I got a crit. And it creates a heart. It's simple, honestly. And this is the basic functionality done, but it's a little broken, getting 20 heart hits. So we're going to do the same logic of a heart, but instead of a heart, we're going to do a little mushroom object, and then we're going to add some basic effects, and then we're done. Alright, so my game is not built because we're adding a new class. So we're going to do public class healing mushroom mod item. Override set defaults. We're just going to do item.width or item.size equals new vector 2 12. Now you'll notice we don't have a healing mushroom sprite here because we're just going to use the vanilla mushroom sprite and maybe scale it down a little bit. So we're going to call override texture. This is not a method, this is a parameter. That's not the right name. I forget the name. It's basically, it's a variable in the mod item class that can be overridden. By default, it is the file path to the mod item. You'll notice this is in the forestborn sword class, but this is a separate class. So if we had a healing mushroom.png in the melees folder, it would use that. But instead, it also tells you, if you hover over this, we're going to return bing, bing, bong. It accepts a string. So we're going to return Terraria /images /item underscore item id dot mushroom. And that's it. So that should make it use the mushroom text. We're going to set item dot scale to about 0.6f. Now, everything else we don't really need because the functionality of this is on pickup. So, first thing, let's read the function description. Return false to stop the item from being added to player's inventory. That's what we want, because they don't actually exist as items. That's the behavior we're looking for. So we're going to return false. Then we're going to call player.heal. And we're going to call 5. That'll heal the player for 5 health. That does not create the healing text that pops up when you get healed. That only is the healing, like, that only increases the player's health. Heal effect is the actual text, the little green text that happens when you pick up a healing item. So now that we have a healing mushroom item, we're going to call mod content.item type healing mushroom. And now before we build our mod, we're just going to override one of these methods. It's use item frame? No. It's one of these that we can use to, oh, melee effects. I saw it. There we go. So we're going to create this so that we can use it to create some dust as the player is swinging the sword. So we built our mod. Just load it up. Let's grab our Forestborn sword. I know I'm moving a little fast. Also, this is a healing mushroom item we've created. You'll see it has the vanilla thing, and that's what it looks like. And when we pick it up, oh, looks like we got healed for 2. It looks like, maybe I lied. I think heal already calls. I lied. Heal effect actually, or heal actually calls heal effect. That might have been an old version of the game, or I might have just misremembered. So now we're being healed for 5. That works. And when we strike an enemy, it's going to create a little healing mushroom, and we can pick it up and be healed. And if we do this, we can test that it's actually healing us. If I could ever get a crit. As you can see, we got a little heal there. Now a 5 heal isn't super noticeable, but you'll notice our health is actually going up. So we're not just visually healing the player, we're actually healing the player. So simple as that. Now I'd say let's just add some melee effects. Let's say, I don't know how exactly this method works, but we're gonna figure it out. We call dust.newDust. We're gonna do hitbox.top left, I believe, and then we're gonna do hitbox.width, hitbox.height. It's been a long time since I've used these methods. We're gonna call dustid.grass. And we're gonna give it no velocity for now. We're gonna do no. Oh, right. So this returns an int, which we can call int b equals dust.newDust, which is going to return the ID in the main.dust parameter. So we can call dust equals main.dust d. Basically, main.dust is an array of all the dusts that are active in the world. This creates a new dust and returns the index of the dust within main.dust, so we can get this dust that we just created and change some of its attributes. So we're going to do dust.noGravity equals true, which is going to make the dust float in the air, and yeah. As you can see, it creates some neat little effects. Now it's a little intrusive. We're not going to do that. We're going to call if main.ran.nextBool 3. This method is a very simple helper method that Terraria has. It's basically, this happens every 1 in X times, in this case 3. So it'll happen 33% of the time. So as you can see, we have some nice little dust, and it's creating dust when we do it, which is nice. Last thing I want to do, personally, because I like the game feel, is we're going to create dust when you get a critical hit and spawn a healing mushroom, and we might even play a sound effect. So we're going to call for int I equals 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. This is a for loop. Basically, everything in these brackets is going to run X amount of times. Because we're starting from 0 and we're going less than 5, it'll run 5 times. Because it'll run at 0, run at 1, run at 2, 1 at 3, run at 4, and then once I equals 5, it stops. And then the code continues. This entire thing runs, and then this happens. So we are going to... I mean, we could use this, I guess. We can just reuse this code. We're going to do target dot center, and we're just going to do 1 and 1, because we kind of just want it to come from the center. But I don't really like this method. I prefer the method dust.newDustPerfect. One, this has different methods that allow for more precise dust spawning, and it returns the actual dust instance spawn, so you don't have to do dust. You don't have to go through the main.dust array, which is, I just prefer it. So we're gonna do target.center. We're gonna do dustid.grass, and we're gonna do main.rand.nextVector to circular. And we are going to do 5f, 5f. This is going to return a random vector in a circle with a width and height, width and height of 5. So it's going to create a velocity vector. It's basically just going to make the dust spread out a little bit. And then we're going to call no gravity equals true again. So this is going to make all of these dust spawned have no gravity. Now we're going to call sound helper. No, sound engine dot play sound. I have helper methods for a lot of things. So this is how you play a sound manually. So every sound ID is a sound style, as you can see. That's what it takes. We're gonna do NPC hit 1. I think is like a squishy sound. We're gonna play it at the target.center. You can play around with pitch, with sound style. So for example, this is a sound style. You can do... Whoa, I just knocked my mic over. I am so sorry about that. You can do width. Or not width. You can do width. And then you can change any of the parameters of this for this specific one. It's not changing the actual parameters of the NPC01 because this width object differs. So it creates basically a new object. So we can do volume, we can do pitch. Let's pitch it up by 1 just to get our point across. So now we're going to spawn it in. As you can see, it popped out. It played a weird noise because the pitch is so high. So we can just get rid of that. I think NPC hit is the same sound as a slime getting hit. So we're gonna do NPC monk staff ground impact because that's a cool sound that'll differentiate itself from the NPC hit sound. As you can see, boom. It's not very accurate for this weapon, obviously, but you get the point across. We're spawning some dust whenever it happens. And hey, I think there is a dust ID.mushroom. Mushroom torch? Maybe? I don't know. It's kind of messing around. That created some weird things. Now, I think it might be cool if we don't do no gravity, and instead we do maybe dirt with no gravity, and then it'll make some dirt and grass pop out. Boom. See how now the dust is affected by gravity, so it creates a neat little effect. Holy crap. So if you want to debug, or if for this one specifically, we can do item crit equals 20. Obviously that's super unbalanced, but it'll help us from swinging relentlessly at enemies for like 20 minutes. So now it has a crit chance of 24. so it'll crit way more often. And as you can see, we're getting healing mushrooms, and it's super neat, super cool, and super simple, honestly. And it gets more complicated, obviously, but we're gonna do 4. So this is gonna make it have a crit chance of 8. It adds 4 to the base crit chance, as you can see, 8%. And yeah, so now we're creating healing items on hit. This is, I think, a pretty good start. I think it'll, honestly, the principles described here will help you learn a lot. If you guys have any questions about the content that I went through this episode, just let me know in the comments. I respond to pretty much anything that is within reason. Next episode, I think I am going to make a explosion of sorts. We're gonna go over explosion logic. We're gonna go over some more advanced things, such as creating a custom projectile with explosion logic, and then we're gonna do something fun. We're gonna learn how to add screen shake, because I think it's something that a lot of mods add, and it looks really cool, and it feels really premium, but it is incredibly simple to do. So yeah, if you guys wanna see that, hit like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz.